In this bootcamp episode, we'll be going over daily bias. So, daily bias is something that a lot. When you think of daily bias, you think of, okay, where does the next daily candle need to go? And to be honest, here's the deal. Here's what I'm gonna be honest with you. If you're trading the 1 minute time frame like I typically do, you don't really need to know where the daily candle is gonna go, because you're going to find many opportunities inside these daily candles without actually predicting where they should go. If that makes sense. Um, the one thing I will definitely say about daily bias, though, is the best opportunities of buying will always be below the open, and the best opportunities of selling will always be above the open. Okay. So, for example, if we open, like wherever we open the next day, which we're going to have the next day open in about an hour from now, but whoever the next day opens, okay, ideally you want to try to buy below the open, which would be here. So like for this candle here, you're trying to get in before the open. Same thing with a high. You're trying to get in above the, if you really think the candle's going to be bearish, you want to get in above the close. Obviously this is a bullish candle, so again, because of us bouncing off an OB, an order block here, you can see this red candle before this up move. It would really make sense to try to buy below the open of a candle like this. And it's not like you're trying to go in blindly. Like, you're not blindly buying below this open. You want to go to the lower time frame, such as the 5 minute, and then you look for an entry model. But all in all, that's like going to be the best case scenario to get in off the daily candle. Now, that being said, I almost never pay attention to that, okay? You're going to miss opportunities, and here's why. Let's say I'm going to the daily candle, and let's say I'm trying to predict the next daily candle. So I think the next daily candle is going to be green. I go to the 5 minute chart. I play the next daily candle, and we have a nice short opportunity where you maybe see an order block put in right here. You can kind of see these two up close candles before this down move. But let's say, oh, I thought the daily candle was going to be green. I wanted long, and so I'm not going to take this. Play what price action tells you. Okay, I'm telling you, I don't really care about the daily candle a whole lot. I don't try to go in and try to predict it every day. I think that allows you to miss off of a lot of opportunities, because if I see a 5 minute short or something that looks really really good, or shorts whatever, I'll short it. Okay, it's not like I'm waiting or making the daily candle decide my whole bias, because there will be opportunities that you will 100% miss if you're doing that. Okay, so that's one important thing. So the way I really try to find the daily bias is I actually don't try to predict the daily candle, and it sounds counterintuitive, but I don't try to predict the daily candle. I actually go to like the 1 hour or the 4 hour, and I kind of look on like, I kind of like to look for like where momentum is and what fair value gaps we're in. Are we in discounted premium and all that kind of stuff? So like in this example here, if I turn off replay mode here, in this example here, the big thing with this was we kind of came out into a discount. Okay, if you draw this impulse leg to this impulse high, we kind of came into a discount. And one really easy way to determine the bias is looking for like an order block on like the 4 or 1 hour, an inverse fair value gap, something like that. And that's kind of what I base my daily bias off of. So I don't really use the daily bias because I'm not taking a play that's really going to have any effect on the daily. I'm taking 1 to 5 minute entries. And the best, write this down in your notes, but you don't need, all you need to be right about for a 1 to 5 minute entry is the next 15, 20, maybe hour. You don't need to be right for the next 4 hours. You just need to know where price is going to move in a little period of time, and that's all that matters. Doesn't matter what the daily candle does. It's not going to affect you, especially if you're taking entries like I do. And yeah, I mean, if you're trying to swing trade, then yeah, use the daily, but I don't really trade based off the daily. And honestly, for daily bias, I use the 1 hour and 4 hour gaps. Okay, so I just kind of draw the gaps, I discount the premium, and I kind of see where the momentum's leading. So this is actually a great example. So this example, we left equal highs up here. And when we got down here, I'm like, okay, we're in discount. I figured we'd go back to equal highs. And if you look at the daily, you actually could not see these on the daily chart. And that's why I love going to the 104 hour, because you can see things you can't on the daily, okay? like these equal highs you would have missed if you're only using the daily candle. So again, what would equal highs tell us the bias is? It would tell us we're bullish. Now, let's play a few candles. Would it tell us we're bullish here? No, but maybe you'd start looking for like a long entry here. Maybe you go lower time frame, see what we see, and then you kind of get these couple candles, and then finally, I think this candle right here kind of activates this order block here, this this down close candle before this up close move. That candle would have been like, okay, I'm gonna be bullish. It's the 10 o'clock candle closed above this black candle, okay, or the red candle, which is now an order block telling me we're likely to go to these equal highs, which is a great liquidity pool, as I talked about in my liquidity pool video. Now, I'm going to be very honest with you guys. Every situation is unique in the market. This is a unique situation. Nothing I teach in this video is going to really help you with the daily bias tomorrow. Daily bias took me years, and it's kind of just checking a bunch of different time frames. Like my bias, like sometimes it will just literally be dependent on like equal lows we formed during Asia. So the other week, if I can find it, we actually got like these really massive perfect equal lows. I think it was over here something. It was they're pretty significant if I can find them real quick. I don't think I'll be able to find them, but anyways, like we formed these really obvious equal lows during Asia session last week, and I'll just pretend they're right here, okay? So there's about 9 of them. They kind of lined up like this. Let me just thin this out. And this is kind of what it looked like. And basically, there was 9 of these. They're all perfectly equal. It kind of looks something like this. And I didn't have to go to the 4-hour time frame to know that. I just saw these in the 1 minute. I'm like, okay, the market, when the candle's unopened, will probably go for these equal lows. And that's literally sometimes, like, that's all I do. I take the short if we get an opportunity. Okay, just because you know where the drawn liquidity is doesn't mean you're always going to get the short, or doesn't always mean you're going to get the opportunity. And then I take the opportunity and I cover here. And from that point on, I'm either 1, done for the day, or 2, I'm just going to tape read without a bias until more equal lows or equal highs form, or until I see momentum in one direction, kind of like that. I love momentum trading. It's very good. And I mean, you'll learn how I trade in a couple, probably in a, I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do a little video of my strategy. Obviously, you can watch my course on that too if you would like, and link is in the description for that. But you can definitely find daily bias or the bias off of any time frame. I'm telling you, I've found the daily bias off the 1 minute time frame from seeing a bunch of equal lows and equal highs. I found the daily bias off the 4-hour. I mean, even this past week, I mean, we got a really nice reaction off this OB. So I kind of figured we'd kind of go up the next few days. So like when I saw this, I'm like, okay, well, we're now way in discount. Where does the market, or where does the algorithm want to reprice to? Probably premium. So if I draw this leg to this leg, it's just kind of, every situation is going to be unique. And I don't care what daily bias video you watch, even if you watch my old daily bias videos, you're not going to find the same example. You're going to have to find like, okay, where does the market want to hunt? Either 1, a fair value gap, 2, premium or discount, or 3, maybe some sort of higher low. And I mean, again, everything's based off a reaction. I may not know if we're going to bounce off this right here, but then when I see this candle, I'm like, okay, maybe I will looking for long setups back up to like the premium range, you know? So every situation is unique, and I think everyone should understand that. Another way I like to do bias is I just kind of look for reactions off a fair value gap. So this is a major one. This is very obvious. It's very easily seen. If I draw a fair value gap like this and I see like a nice reaction out of it on like the 5-minute time frame, and I see like price really start to respect it, I will look for like a lower time frame entry. So maybe I go to the 1-minute time frame here, maybe I see a 5-minute gap, whatever, because of the reaction off the hourly. So you can see you could have entered in this gap here because of the reaction off of this giant gap here. So again, daily bias is actually kind of more like, it's not mechanical at all. It's going to take a couple time frames to figure it out. Some days I go in without daily bias, and what I'll do is I'll kind of wait for equal highs or equal lows to form, and that's literally all I do. So I may not have a bias, or I might just follow the momentum. But that's basically what I do. Another one I like is, obviously I like to see like if fair value gap gets inversed. That will definitely help me with my bias a lot. So In this situation here, you kind of see this fair value gap respected, and then it's like, okay, here, I don't really know the bias. Here, I don't know it. Okay, here, it's like, okay, now we're starting to really bounce off this. We're kind of breaking this bearish fair value gap here to the left. I'll highlight in yellow. And at this point, I'm like, okay, well, we're probably going to go back to the next high. Maybe it's this one, maybe it's this one. And that's what I kind of think, because the reaction off of this. Now, what if we kind of dumped through this and got a bearish candle through it? Well, imagine if you're in longs and you saw a candle like that, you'd probably get out. So if I saw that, I probably would have been bearish. But so far, like in this situation, there's never really a bearish candle. So that just tells me, like, around this point in time, that the bias is going to be bullish. So I think it's important to understand that every situation is going to be unique. The main things you want to look for is the draw on liquidity is an unfilled gap. So something like this, where it's very obvious. Equal highs or equal lows, or a high and low in general. And then the other one is like a premium or discount range. So in this example, like, you can kind of see we go up above that gap, and then we kind of make equal highs there, and then go back into like the discount of the range. So as soon as I see a candle like this, honestly, that's like, okay, I'm probably bearish now to the discount of the range, and then I'll kind of reassess when we get down there, and then we hit that discount of the range. Now I kind of reassess, how is price going to react to this gap? How are we going to react to this gap as a whole? And time is also included in this as well, because this is actually at 2100. This is at night time when I'm going to sleep. So I really don't care what happens here until the next morning. So I wake up in the next morning and it's 12 o'clock, and all of a sudden I see a bearish gap completely get wrecked. So I see this bearish gap kind of get blown through. That kind of tells me, okay, well, we're probably going to go back to the highs, because we have equal highs clearly resting up here. And where do people place their stop losses? Above those highs. So that's kind of how I figure out my daily bias. There isn't one set way to do it. If you watch any video on YouTube on how to figure out daily bias, they'll always use some example of, oh, just use this one method. But it's not one method. That's the secret. A lot of people think it is one method. It's not one method. You can use multiple time frames to figure out where we're going to go in the next 2 hours. You can use multiple different confluences. It's not one method. It's not going to work. You can't just predict a daily candle that easily. And through years of trading, you will definitely get better finding daily bias. That's like the one thing that you can definitely master over the next 30 years. Obviously, you're never going to master daily bias, but sometimes there might not be a daily bias. You have to stay patient. I've already gone into the day before with not having any clue on what's going to happen, and then all of a sudden, I'll go to like the 4-minute or the 5-minute chart, and all of a sudden I see like, oh, we have equal highs here. And now all of a sudden, let's see if I can draw a switch. Now all of a sudden I went from having no bias to, okay, now we have equal highs here. I'm going to look for a long or something like that. And that happens all the time for me, okay? So that is how you figure out daily bias. It's not going to be just look for momentum, look for unfilled gaps, look for broken gaps. Okay, broken. I'll show you an example in my Discord. I basically said 4:25, 11:38 a.m. We were in between a 2-minute fair value gap here and a 2-minute fair value gap here. And all I said is bias right now depends on whichever way these 2-minute FVGs break. Okay, so if I go back to that, that was 4:25. If I go back to that, it was right here. So we have a 2-minute gap here, and we have a 2-minute gap here. And why the 2-minute time frame? Well, I was on the 2-minute time frame because if you go to the 1 minute, this was kind of disrespected a little bit. It wasn't that obvious. If you go to the 3-minute, you could have used the 3-minute, honestly, because the bodies were still respecting this. Remember what I said, bodies will tell you everything you need to know. Like, you could have used a 2, 3, 4 because everything was being respected, but I was just using a 2-minute. And you can kind of see, I said at this point in time, I'm like, whichever way this 2-minute gap breaks, that's probably the bias. And you can see we kind of stay in it for a while. And then finally, the body closes above this gap. And that kind of tells me, okay, we're probably going to go to the next high. So you kind of retest that. I use the support, and we just end up going higher. So again, bias will not be straightforward every time. That was kind of definitely a more straightforward day. And you got to realize it only gives me the bias. Something like that, a call like that will only give me the bias until we hit the next high. So obviously this is a very good liquidity pool, as I talked about. Big wick. Once we hit the high, I have no bias. Maybe it's short, maybe reverse, but I really don't want to take a trade until I see more structure or some more price action. But why would you want to take a trade after, okay, I now know we're bullish. This is the target. Once we hit this target, I don't know. I'm going to stay out. I'm going to be done for the day. I'm going to finish green. And then you come in the next day, look for some other equal high, equal low, some other abnormal wick. Okay, you just have to be patient enough until they form. A lot of people, they come in every day thinking you have to predict the next daily candle. I never try to predict the next daily candle. I think that's people's problems and why some people give up, because you can never always predict the daily candle. So really, like right now, if I had to go off replay mode and I draw a discounted premium from the leg we just made, my bias probably going into Monday, which this isn't going to be posted for a while, so I don't know what's going to happen. You'll see what happens after, obviously. I mean, I think we're probably going to come up and refill this unbalanced gap. And by fill, we don't have to fill the whole thing, but maybe wick up into it, and then I'll kind of see how we react to it. If we get a nice big candle that closes above it, then I will be like, okay, well, I think we're going to go back to the highs, which would be up here. So my bias right now is just kind of targeting an unfilled fair value gap and premium, because the market targets unfilled inefficiencies, which is a fair value gap, and it also targets highs and lows. And we don't know if this high is going to hit for sure unless this is broken. So this is our first step. And then once this is broken, we're probably going to go hit this high and then likely this high, because there's actually a lot more of built up stop losses here. Okay. So again, very important to understand that I think the biggest thing you should take away from this video is daily bias is unique. You can't teach daily bias in a video. It's unique. You're going to have to understand why the market moves the way it does, and that's how you start getting decent at the daily bias. Because if you understand the market, like, oh, we're really low, daily bias is probably going to be bullish until we hit like the 0.50 or whatever, then that's how you're going to be the best trader possible. Not trying to do the same method every day, because there's going to be unique situations where you're going to have no idea what to do. So that is it for this video for now. Daily bias is the hardest thing. It will take you 2 to 3 years to really get good at. And even when you're good at it, sometimes you might not still have a daily bias. That's just how it is sometimes, even for me. So that is it for this video. I will see you guys later. Peace.